Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Q49 Podcast, brought to you exclusively by the Hoosier Network, alongside Sam Brunsman and Joe Cronin. I am Austin Platt. Today is Thursday, September the 21st, and Indiana men's soccer is coming off of a 1-0 victory against Butler to get back into the win column, as the Hoosiers are now 3-2-2 as conference play is officially in full swing, with Indiana headed to East Lansing tomorrow to take on Michigan State. This is now, the second time we're sitting in here. The last episode, Nick and Rotacap and I had a nice conversation with Maloon Goombali, so go check that one out. That is on audio only, on Spotify only, but this one is also available on YouTube. We also talked about it was the IU Credit Union Classic, which now feels like ages ago. In Indiana, of course, lost to Washington and defeated Seton Hall as well. Man, time is just completely flying by. But
we're getting close to spooky season, isn't that something?
Halloween is over a month away.
It's still close. Spooky season starts October 1st. You know that, right?
Still September.
I know, but I said close.
It's still September.
Still got a lot of September left.
Close.
There's still another week of September left.
That is close. That would be closer to October than it is August. Close.
See, if you go to the mall, are you seeing Halloween stuff already there?
Yes. You saw Halloween stuff in August. Come on. You know that's true. You're probably seeing Christmas
I'm not a
stuff
Halloween
in 2 weeks.
person.
You're seeing Christmas stuff in 2 weeks.
I'm not a Halloween person, so I'll start with that.
I was just saying it's spooky season.
Okay, well, there was definitely a spooky time for Indiana men's soccer after they failed to beat Wisconsin in the conference opener, and that was a week after they lost to South Florida. I want to take this more, instead of going game by game like we usually do, is kind of a State of the Union podcast. I think 7 matches in, we're a month. Indiana's already played a month of their schedule in the regular, close to the month in the regular season, but if you include the preseason matches, which we covered, we're over a month in. But, first, before we talk about soccer, we just had lunch, so it's just past lunchtime. Yep. Sam, how was your lunch today?
Yeah, so I went with the ham sandwich with a little slice of cheese, and then I also had strawberries.
No, mustard?
No, plain. Bro, I'm picky. Then I had cheddar jack Cheez-Its. Boom.
It's quite the
meal
lunch
right there.
What about you, Cronin?
I'm annoyed.
You shouldn't be.
Cheddar Jack Cheez-Its, first off, is that what you said, or Cheddar Jack cheese?
Cheez-Its.
That's not even the good cheeses.
But they're toasted too.
Okay, that's fine. Gosh.
What did you have?
No, you're just agreeing with me.
It's whatever. I went to the IMU and used a meal swap because meal exchange or whatever
it's called.
On my bursar. And I win. I forget what the place is called. I don't know the names of them.
What did you eat?
I ate salad with some chicken. It
was
mid, but it's whatever. I don't know.
And to round it out, I had Cane's. So
it still smells in here, too.
I did not eat all of it. It was a quick, pick it up and then eat as much of it as you can. And then here we are. So, of course, on the podcast, you can't smell it. But, I'm getting a whiff of the Cane's chicken.
I can smell it right now.
Which my stomach...
With my working nose now, I can
I'm
smell
glad.
it very clearly.
If you can tell, Joe's nose looks perfectly fine after he had a bit of an incident, which will be in the bloopers at the end of the year. Regardless, let's get this thing a move on, considering, Sam, you were on the road tonight and traveling to Illinois for the Indiana women's soccer match. Of course, good luck with your travels.
Thank you, sir.
Safe travels is what the people say. And we're excited to see you on the call tonight. Regardless, we're talking about men's soccer here on this podcast. So we've gone on a tangent already, and we were only 5 minutes in.
Yikes.
Let's take this more of a State of the Union podcast. Indiana 7 matches in, obviously not where they expected to be at this point, with 3 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses. Indiana dropped out of the top 25, which came out on Tuesday before the win over Butler after starting at number 2. The United Soccer Coaches Poll, the one that really we all use, and the one that really most of the teams kind of put as kind of where they are as their benchmark. Sam, I'll start with you. 7 matches in. I guess as of late, the big talking point was the formation change against Butler, going to a 4-5-1. Luca Becerra getting the start. Also, Jansen Miller has been starting over Hugo Bacharach. In the last few matches, kind of what have you noticed, and kind of where do you see the direction of this team going forward?
So, the 4-5-1, I think it worked very well against the Butler team. And as Yeagley said, after the match, it was just a one game kind of thing. It's just feeling things out, getting players in like Becerra. But I think the 4-4-2, it works. They just haven't been able to finish the ball, and that's kind of been the theme going on for this whole season. They've had their chances against Wisconsin, and they probably could have had 2 or 3 more against Butler. But against the match against Wisconsin, that game could have easily been 2-3-0. Sarver had one right in front of goal. That could have been an easy tap-in. But I think the the positioning, it can go either way. I'm fine with the 4-4-2 if they want to rock out with that. But, yeah, I mean, it's been a tough start for them so far.
Yeah, obviously, the formation change, something we really didn't think we'd see. Yeagley, a 4-4-2 guy, really at heart, and I think it surprised us to see a 4-5-1 and to see Luca Becerra come in and bring Tommy Mahalik, kind of a super sub off the bench, which you've seen him a little bit in years past. Joe, the 4-5-1, you think it worked?
Yeah, I kind of liked what I saw. I think Luca Becerra did a very solid job in that middle role, created some chances. I mean, he was the centerpiece of the lone goal. It was off a throw-in. He had a nice shield, sent it out to Collins. Collins makes a move, dishes it over to Sarver for a tap-in. That all starts with Becerra, the way he shields himself and creates space in the open field. And, I mean, this was something a couple weeks ago that Coach Yeagley even said that Becerra is probably one of the, if not the best, second-best finisher on this squad. So to see him getting these quality minutes, I mean, we talked... It was mostly going to be a situational thing, whether or not they run that 4-5-1. But to see Becerra in some more action is something that this game against Butler was probably one of the bigger takeaways alongside Jansen Miller's recent success.
I think that's a great point you bring up, and I wrote about, check out in all of our articles and all of our content at thehoosiernetwork.com. Obviously, we have to say that during every podcast, but I think the most important thing was Becerra's presence and what he was able to do. Fired off 4 shots, I believe 2 of them were on goal, and the one in the half volley, I think, is the one that stuck out to a lot of us, and it went over the bar, but I mean, it was just a rising shot it was pretty close, and I know, Sam, you were down there, and it was probably a lot closer to you than it was to us in the press box, but I think that's the most important thing is Indiana, in my opinion, has found its true striker. And not only that, they're pushing them up a little bit and having the 2 central midfielders in McDonald and Jack Wagner kind of move up a little bit and try and get them more involved in the final third, which is something that Todd Yeagley has always talked about. And I thought bringing him on, I think establishing him as the guy, and maybe bring on Quentin Helmer as well, giving those guys more minutes. Yeagley said that at the beginning of the year we were going to expect that, but we really hadn't seen that until the Tuesday match against Butler, where Indiana hadn't scored a goal in over 2 weeks. It was Sarver that obviously got the goal from Collins Aduro on that great cross 10 minutes in, the first time Indiana had really gotten a goal early, the first time they had gotten a lead in the first half, and they held on to it, unlike maybe they did a couple times last year in the beginning of the season. But I think the biggest thing is Becerra and the 4-5-1. Now, I think the next question is, will it stay? Joe, I'll go to you first.
I'm not sure, and that's another thing. It's just going to be situational, and a lot of things that Coach Yeagley this season has thrown out has been different circumstances. I mean, Justin Schreffler got some very quality minutes in the second half, and his only other minutes came in the second half against Notre Dame. So seeing a freshman come into that situation and have some solid production. You saw Joel Demian come in when Brett Beebe went down. His injury status a little unknown. We didn't really ask many questions about that. It looked like he was able to walk on his own weight. It was something to do with the leg. But beyond that, I do think that they might try that more when you get in circumstances when they're facing a pretty solid defense. Butler's defense was their strongest suit outside of one player with Palmer Alt, who has all of their goals on the year. So with that being said, to add some more goal scoring opportunities with Becerra, with Mahalik coming off the bench, he's stronger. He's shown that in his career, and I think Maloon Gambale out wide is a better option. That was something that Coach Yeagley again said, that he just had more of a presence, a better feel out there, and is able to just use his speed, his athleticism to create. And we saw it a few times. Like, he looked a lot more comfortable out wide than he did trying to turn his back to the goal at that striker position. And Sarver, tap in goal. He was there at the right time.
Sam?
I believe they're going to go back to the 4-4-2 against Michigan State. I mean, Michigan State, now they're ranked 16th, I believe. And now looking at their squad, they have put some good players on their team. They've, out of their 9 goals so far, 7 of them have been from different players. So they have a variety of scoring, which is a lot different from IU. It's been the same few. It's been Sarver, Aduro, and I think 1 came from Helmer. And, I think going back to the 4-4-2, against Michigan State and from now on in the Big Ten schedule, I think will be beneficial because obviously they like playing with their wings. But I also like the 4-5-1. So if Yeagley did decide to go back to that, you saw a lot of movement in the middle. He was swinging the ball from left to right, and it's what helped them get their chances and score their lone goal, as Joe mentioned earlier. So I think the 4-5-1 works, but I think they'll go back to the 4-4-2 because at the same time they created as many chances in that formation as they did in the 4-5-1 because they have the players to do it. They have the speed on the wings, and they have the forwards to finish the ball.
I think the interesting thing about a 4-4-2 is the fact that, well, I think with a 4-5-1, the thing is with Becerra is that he's, I guess, maybe not your natural number 9 because he's going to sit back a little bit, and he's not someone who's going to go in and head one from inside the 18. He's someone who can shoot from outside the 18. I think that's where the 4-5-1 is almost better because you can have him back a little bit more. With a 4-4-2, he's up top with someone else, and sure, you can bring him back a little bit, but I think the 4-5-1 helps him out where he's in the center of that 5, and then other guys can move up and back, and we've seen that before, McDonald and Wagner in years past. Last year, Wagner was the one that usually played a bit back, and McDonald was the one that would go up a bit more. They'd switch off a little bit, but I think that's the most interesting thing is that the way Becerra is in his play style, very similar to his brother Victor in the way that he went about and how he scored a lot of goals. I think Luka's, of course, scored one last year against Trine, but it was kind of due for one, and it felt like it would have been, he deserved one on Tuesday night. Joe, you got something to say?
I think it was also a very good defensive adjustment with the 4-5-1 because it allowed Pat and Jack to really sit back more and let Luka kind of take control of the offensive standpoint. And once again, I'll mention again, Palmer Alt could potentially be a first-team All-Big East player, could be Big East Player of the Year if he continues the streak that he's on, and they shut him down. And I think when you have a player like that, that is when a 4-5-1 might be utilized defensively as compared to everything that we've been talking about on the offensive side.
Yeah, it's the back line. I know we don't talk about it because obviously the storyline so far has just been their inability to score, but obviously their back line, again, another clean sheet, and they've only given up 3 goals this year. 3
goals.
Notre Dame.
1 to Washington.
And then USF, yeah. So all of their wins have come with clean sheets, and you throw in the 0-0 draw against Wisconsin. So you were nodding, Sam, when he was talking about kind of the central midfielders and just Indiana's ability to kind of shut down the top scorer.
Yeah, I think so as you were talking about with Patrick McDonald and Jack Wagner, they're in the 4-5-1 when they were just sitting like kind of there. That's really beneficial for their defense, even though their back line's pretty strong anyways, only giving up 3 goals, as we just mentioned. But, yeah, with giving Luka the ability to kind of just create on his own in the midfield, giving him the space to dribble, fire out passes and stuff, it was really beneficial for their team. So I think if they continue to do that in the 4-5-1, if they want to continue with it, it'll be good for their team moving forward. But, I mean, obviously, even if they go back to the 4-4-2, their back line's solid enough. I mean, Jansen Miller, Joey, in the 2 center backs, they're very solid back there. They've helped JT Harms plenty this season. So I think it just depends.
I think one thing to add as well, and something that Yeagley talked about, my mic here is just
there's something up with these mics here that they just fall.
I think we're a month into using these, and maybe just the overuse.
The wear and tear.
It's very.
Is this where Pack the Rock is as well?
Yeah.
That's definitely why.
Everyone records in here, something like that. Yeah, wow. These get overused, and this is kind of almost like on a bungee cord right here. It's
just hold it.
I should just be able to hold it. It's like I'm giving a speech or something. Instead, what were we talking about? For me, I think one of the biggest things as well is the set pieces and the fact that Sam Sarver's actually taken some of those set pieces. We know he wins a lot of them, but he's been taking some of those corners, and there were a couple the other night where he sent them in long and was looking for someone to kind of head it back towards the frame of goal and then have that extra touch in order to have someone try and knock it in. And Indiana got close a few times. Obviously, they still haven't scored off of one, which is something that Todd Yeagley is still going to want to have the guys work on in training, but I think that's a big change as well. They usually had Mahalik, or even the times that Becerra was on the pitch, he was used a few times, but we've seen Sarver a lot, and I think that's made a pretty big difference. And we saw Indiana kind of utilize the right wing a lot against Butler, and we have to remember that everything is game by game. Obviously, you look at video and you try and figure out what are your strengths and weaknesses, and that's why Malone Gumbali was playing on the wing and not up top. He did a great job down the right wing. Actually, the goal came from the left with Colin Zaduro, who had a few nice runs in the first few minutes and eventually got that ball into Sarver to kind of tap in, as no one really marked him within the 6. So I think the biggest thing is set pieces. I know obviously the formation change I think makes a difference, but if you have Sarver putting those balls in, his deliveries have been pretty good for the most part, then that makes a big difference. Let's talk about obviously the big thing at the back. Jansen Miller starting in favor of Hugo Bacharach, who has not even dressed in the last 2 games. Miller had played all 180 minutes and played pretty well, nearly had a few chances at a couple corners. I guess what are the big differences you guys are seeing, and do we think this is kind of a long-term change? Sam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think Jansen's done a great job back there, filling in for Bacharach. It was kind of it was surprising at first, really. I mean, because Bacharach played every single game until the past 2, full 90 as well. So I think Jansen's done a very good job playing back there with Joey and Alex Barger on the left. So I think it's really interesting to see how he's transitioned into this. Like, it seems like he's been playing like as a day one starter, but he's really only played 2 games as a starter. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he's filled in really well for Bacharach, yeah. And I think we will continue to see this until I guess Bacharach proves like he can win that spot back. I really don't know how he lost it.
We don't know. This is kind of a new thing for all of us where we really kind of came out of nowhere.
Because Bacharach's a good player. Like, don't get me wrong. Great. I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson transfer. Excuse me. No, but he's a good player. So it was a surprise to see that he wasn't in the lineup against Wisconsin and against Butler.
Yeah.
Something interesting about Jansen Miller is he saw action against Notre Dame. It was the last 15 minutes he subbed in.
Yes.
And that's where Notre Dame had all of their chances. And it looked like they were going to come away with the win in South Bend. And it was right then that, at least from my perspective, I thought, wow, Hugo makes that much of a difference. And then Jansen comes in against Wisconsin, starts again against Butler, and he did a great job. He might not have the on-ball skills that Hugo has, because I think that's something very underrated about Bacharach is just his ability. He can beat 1 or 2 guys and then make a pass off. And sometimes you'd over dribble, you get the ego boost when you beat someone on the ball. But I don't think Jansen possesses that on-ball skill as much. But I mean, his ability to track balls in the air, I just think is just as good as Hugo. I think he's very physical. His 6'2" frame, he was able to pretty much body Palmer all game long. Once again, that is such a good striker. That's a good matchup. And only his second start, nothing. And I think he earned that role that he's in. And it'll be very interesting moving forward when we possibly get more information about Hugo. If he comes back, I'm not sure. But if it gets to a point where Hugo's ready to play again, do they try and just run a 3-back Joey Jansen Hugo? Because I think there's potential with it. You could have Alex and Brett out on a wing-back role, play them up more. I don't know. That's a great 3-front if you get Hugo back into that.
That's an interesting point you make there if they want to, bring them together. And obviously, this was an advantage of playing at the beginning of the year. That game against Notre Dame was so brutally hot to the fact where you had to roll through a bunch of guys and really prove that your bench was worth it. And we saw that. You mentioned Schreffler. Obviously, when Beebe went down, Joel Demian came in. He made his debut against South Florida and looked pretty good for another freshman. We saw Barger. He had, one chance with his left foot.
That was a good shot.
Against Butler, I mean, completely kind of out of nowhere, just kind of almost like what we would do in our intramural game. Just, hey, let's have a go from over 20 yards out and let's see what happens. And he forced a pretty good save from the Butler keeper. So the bench is another thing that Indiana is definitely showing that they have that they're showing is strong yet again. And Sam Sarver told us after the match that this bench that's where they were last year, and the bench that he feels is just as strong as it was last year.
I just think something is interesting about the way Coach Yeagley utilizes his bench is there isn't much consistency. You'll see guys like Becerra. I mean, Becerra obviously started, but like Helmer, there's pretty much your consistent sub, and Mahalik if he is coming off the bench. But I mean, Justin Schreffler, he's appeared in 2 games, both are the bookends of the game so far. We saw no Clay Murador, who had gotten some praise in the minutes that he got. And I mean, Joel Demian, I think, really was a situational because Brett going down with the injury, but there just isn't much consistency with who is coming in outside of Quentin and when Becerra was coming off the bench.
Yeah, it kind of goes back and forth, like you said. I mean, it just depends on who they're playing, I guess, and what the matchup's like in the skill positions. But yeah, it's super inconsistent because, as you said, I mean, we didn't see Clay Murador last match against Butler, and he's a solid piece for that team. And it was like Becerra started, Mahalik came off the bench, so I feel like it just kind of depends on who they're playing and just like the skill position matchups. Because like IU's gonna win on the wings, they're so fast and good on the ball. But yeah, I mean their bench, it just kind of depends who they're playing. I feel like.
Yeah, and obviously the team they play next is the Michigan State Spartans. Friday, as Michigan State, as you mentioned, Sam, in the top 25. Indiana drew to them last year in one of those matches where they were really the stronger team, deserved to win, and just couldn't find that second goal. And eventually the Spartans scored on their only shot on goal very late on. I believe Bryant Pratt started net for that game, and that was Indiana's second Big Ten game, and this one will be as well. Obviously, Indiana coming off a draw against Wisconsin. We do score predictions at this time during the podcast. So Michigan State, a strong team in the top 25. It's funny, Northwestern and Michigan State are the two teams in the top 25 in the Big Ten, which I think I told one of you at the beginning of the year that those two teams would be in the top 25. I think
Penn State's getting votes.
I think you're lying.
Penn State's a pretty good team as well. But yeah, everyone would think, I have three heads or something. But, but obviously Penn State, 6 points already. They beat Ohio State 3-0, and then I'm pretty sure they beat Maryland the other day as well. Or they beat Ohio State at home. They have 6 points, I'm pretty sure. Points. They are certainly, of course, they won the Big Ten regular season and postseason 2 years ago, and it looks like they may be on track to do so again, even though I believe they were picked to finish fourth. They disappointed last year, finished fifth. Of course, Indiana beat them in the Big Ten tournament to end their season. But hey, score predictions. Anyone want to go first? Take a jab at it. In East Lansing, Friday night, under the lights.
Austin, I can't believe that a couple weeks ago when we were sitting in here trying to predict our Washington-Indiana scoreline, we were like, this is going to be a shootout. There's going to be high-powered offense, 3-3, 4-3, and I think Nick said 2-2 or something and it was 1-0. I want to say that the offense is starting to get a feel for itself, but I just don't see it. I think this game is going to be a 1-1 draw, and it's either a 1-1 draw or a 1-0 Michigan State win. Michigan State has that home advantage, and I think, that is something. They might not draw as big of a crowd at home than compared to the Bill Armstrong Stadium. I mean, there's just a lot of history and culture with that. But this team's ranked. They've been playing well this year, and I don't know. With the offensive struggles, this is a team that in the mishaps that Indiana's had, it's been with keeping games close and not being able to score. Washington, their chance came from a breakaway where they were able to beat Barger down the right wing. That led to the goal after a corner kick. It was just quick counterattack. And then losing to USF in the way that they did and drawing Wisconsin. That just, I don't know. You got some momentum beating Butler, but it's going to be a tough one.
Sam, I feel like you had the scouting report before the rest of us, so why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I'm going to go same with Joe. I'm going to say 1-1. I hate that you stole my prediction.
Man, you guys are...
It's okay, though.
That's what you get for going first. I don't know.
That's fair. No, I think it's going to be 1-1. I think going to East Lansing will be a tough matchup. Obviously, they're ranked 16th. I mean, if Indiana can find their footing and get the ball in the back of the net, then maybe it'll be 2-1. Who knows? But I think Michigan State's pretty good this year. They haven't lost 4-0-2. So, I mean, I think it'll be 1-1 just because Indiana can't score. And Michigan State, wow, I'm going to get flamed by Michigan.
Next time they play Michigan, so I can understand. Tough, though.
Yeah, I think that since Michigan State has a bunch of players that can put the ball in the back of the net, it could very easily be a Michigan State win. But I think I'm going to stay at 1-1 just for the fact that Indiana can't score at the moment. So I'm going to go 1-1.
All right, who scores first, Indiana or Michigan State in 1-1?
Wow. I think Indiana scores first in a similar fashion that they did against Butler. It's going to be quick within the first 7-8 minutes because I don't think Michigan State is going to be totally prepared for just how quick this team is. Because not many people are prepared for Collins Oduro. I mean, he's young. He's a freshman. And here he is just streaking down the sideline, doing what he wants. So I think if it's going to come from anyone, it's going to be either an assist from Collins or a goal from Collins. And I think, you know what? This is good. This is crazy. Collins crosses, Malum Gumbali head in for his first goal of the season.
Wow. All right, Sam. Now that's a pretty deep, detailed explanation. Who do you have scoring first?
I think that Michigan State will score first. I think they'll come out with momentum, knowing that they are a ranked team, and now that Indiana's fallen out of the top 25. I think they'll use that as motivation, and they got the home crowd with them, of course. So I think they'll come out fired up. So I think that they'll score probably later in the first half, and then I think that Indiana will use that as motivation in the second half to equalize the game 1-1 after the full 90.
All right, that leaves me. I may
Center
or may
of
not.
attention.
Okay, I'll save the best for last. Okay, say whatever you want. You just flamed me and said I predicted 3-2 Indiana would beat Washington. So the last time I completely got it wrong. I was way off. I was probably the polar opposite of what the actual correct answer was. So there's pressure on me.
I also picked a 2-2 or 3-3 against Washington, so I was putting
we were
myself
all
under
wrong.
the bus.
We were all wrong. Michigan State is coming off of a draw at Rutgers. Not a bad result. Of course, Rutgers, Big Ten champs last year. They beat Notre Dame on the road 1-0. They have not lost yet this year. They are 4-0-2. Indiana started last year in the Big Ten with a loss and a draw. They started with a draw this year. 1-0. Michigan State wins. I think there's only going to be one goal scored. It feels like this year only been 2 matches this year where more than one goal has been scored. DePaul was a 2-0 Indiana win, and Notre Dame was a 1-1 draw. So I think Michigan State comes out, and they get a goal, and Indiana on the road for the first time. The Hoosiers did not play well on the road last year in the Big Ten. They lost to Michigan State. They drew to Rutgers and Michigan, and the 4th team, Indiana was on the road too. Oh boy, it's slipping me. It's a brain fart I'm having.
Yeah, I can't.
While you think, I just say, watch
Wisconsin. They beat Wisconsin 2-1 last year. Okay, I saved myself at the very end. So they had one win last year.
Watch this game be 5-4.
If this game is 5-4.
What? I'm giving my prediction of 1-1.
Okay.
And with the situation that I laid out. But just watch it happen.
That'd be
Just
epic.
for fun.
Please
Just
be
for
in
fun.
for some Friday Night Fireworks.
That'd be nuts.
Yeah.
At that point, then, if I knew it was 5-4, then maybe I'd think about taking the trip to East Lansing. But I think we're going to save our gas money.
Fireworks is a good song by
I'm fine
Katy
with
Perry.
that.
I was going to say, you're going to
today.
Champaign tonight, so no more traveling for you.
Yeah, these mics are terrible sometimes. They just fall.
They're very flimsy.
Yeah, that's
All right.
Mine's chilling. I don't know what you guys are talking
Yeah,
about.
you got the
I haven't
nice
touched
seat.
mine.
I don't know why.
There we go.
So I think there's a green Skittle behind you, Sam, on the ground. I'm not saying eat it. But we're in the Halloween theme. We're in the. Is it a green Skittle?
It is a green Skittle.
I'm a big Skittle guy, and green is my favorite. And I
Is
saw
that
one.
green apple too?
You're gonna eat it.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm not gonna eat it. But
Do you remember it used to be lime?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's terrible.
You were talking about Halloween. Do you have a Halloween costume already planned?
No,
okay.
I've been brainstorming, just I haven't taken any notes because I sometimes don't do that. But I don't know. I used to own a mustard costume,
A mustard costume.
just mustard with a little cap.
Okay. My roommate has a banana costume.
Yeah, I used to own a hot dog costume.
Okay. we're checking all the
I
boxes
got a
here.
Jack Sparrow costume back at home.
Okay.
It's kind of sick.
That'd be decent.
Because then you can draw a little mustache on it. Get a jar of dirt.
You gonna use dirt as a mustache?
No, it's a. Oh, I got a jar
Maybe I
of
didn't get
dirt.
the joke. Oh.
Gosh.
Yeah, well.
Have you ever quoted a movie and people just don't know what you're saying?
Yeah, that
that's what
happens.
just happened.
That happens to the best of us
on me.
sometimes.
I'm chronically upset.
Well, the good thing is Indiana does not play on Halloween this year. That's when.
What day is Halloween?
Tuesday, the 31st. That's what I should have said at first. Duh. It's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday this year. It's a Tuesday. And it's a few days after the final game of the regular season against Rutgers.
Okay.
So,
and Big Ten tournament starts right after that.
right.
A week after. Yeah.
So I doubt we'll see the.
Are you going trick or treating?
Okay, I've lost. For me, trick or treating, I was done with trick or treating in middle school. Never a trick or treater. I did it on my lane, and then that was it.
You didn't go far?
I
You're not going to knock on the doors that involve trick or treating.
We should all
Just get a big trash bag, knock on doors.
We'd get the weirdest looks.
We would get. I think someone would call the police on us for trespassing.
It's just cautions at my door. They won't leave. I want candy.
Come on now, it's a yearly thing. Well then, on that note, this has certainly been a trick and not a treat of a podcast at the very end, but that's kind of how they all go. So, on that note, as we think about candy and Halloween, in a month from now, Indiana is certainly thinking about Michigan State and trying to pick up their first Big Ten win of the season, but it looks like that will wrap things up here from the beautiful podcast studio as I will finish my lunch and the rest of us will...
I got Spanish soon.
Oh, okay. See. On that note, adios, folks. For Sam Brunsman and Joe Cronin, I'm Austin Platt. Make sure to keep up with all the content at the Hoosier Network. We'll have stuff out for you tomorrow after Indiana's match against Michigan State. 7 o'clock kickoff, I believe.
I think it's
7:30. 7:30.
7:30 Eastern?
Eastern.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Michigan State.
Yeah, they are.
Right. So 7:30 Eastern kickoff, Indiana versus Michigan State. We'll have all the content for you. But for now, we are signing off, and we'll talk to you next time.